All right, so today we're going to really dig into Microsoft Fabric
Okay.
and specifically these things called dynamic pipelines.
Right.
Now, I know pipelines might not sound like the most exciting
Ah,
thing at first, but
yeah.
you would not believe how much this is shaking things up in the
It's
data world.
yeah.
We're talking about efficiency on a whole new level,
Yeah.
the kind that can really impact how businesses operate and
Mhm.
even, how we experience things every day.
Yeah. And what I think is so fascinating here is that businesses are using dynamic pipelines to make
Mhm.
faster decisions and even predict what's coming next.
Yeah.
So you think about how a retail company could use this to stock the right products,
Right.
or a financial firm
Yeah.
to spot trends before anybody else.
Yeah, I'm already seeing how this goes way beyond just like
Yeah.
a geeky IT thing.
Absolutely.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's break it down.
Yay.
What exactly are dynamic pipelines? What makes them different from just, regular old data processing?
So imagine a recipe that can adjust based on what ingredients you have and how you want to cook them.
Okay.
That's the beauty of dynamic pipelines in Microsoft Fabric.
Okay.
They're adaptable workflows for data.
Gotcha.
Unlike static pipelines, which are fixed and rigid,
Mm-hmm.
they allow for much more flexibility
Okay.
and can be used for different purposes without having to start from scratch.
Right. So instead of like rewriting a ton of code every time you need to do something new with data, you've got this adaptable
Basically.
system ready to go.
Mhm.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially for companies dealing with
Oh, yeah.
massive amounts of data.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's where Microsoft Fabric Data Factory comes in.
Okay.
It's the platform where you build and manage these dynamic pipelines.
Okay.
What's great is it has a visual,
Mm-hmm.
low-code interface.
Okay.
So even if you're not a coding expert,
Right.
you can still create these powerful data workflows.
Hold on, low code. So you're telling me even I could
Yeah.
potentially build a dynamic pipeline?
It's designed to be very user-friendly
Okay.
and accessible to a wider range of people.
Okay.
It's a significant improvement over its predecessor,
Mm-hmm.
Azure Data Factory,
Right.
with a much smoother user experience and tighter integration with other Microsoft Fabric tools.
Okay. I'm starting to see the appeal here,
Yeah.
but let's get into the nuts and bolts.
Sure.
What are the key building blocks of a dynamic pipeline? What actually makes these things tick?
So there are three core components that really drive that flexibility of dynamic pipelines.
Okay.
First, you have the lookup activity.
Okay.
Think of it like a detective gathering clues.
Mm-hmm.
It finds the specific information that the pipeline needs to run.
Okay.
For example, it could grab certain table names from a database.
So it's essentially finding the right pieces of data to work with.
Yep.
Got it. What happens next?
Next up is the piecer.
Mm-hmm.
For each activity,
Okay.
this is where the pipeline processes data in batches,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a chef prepping ingredients simultaneously
Right.
to save time.
Yeah.
It's all about efficiency.
So it's streamlining the whole process, making things happen quickly.
Exactly.
Interesting. What's the third component?
Finally, we have the execute pipeline activity.
Okay.
This allows you to call upon other pipelines,
Okay.
creating a chain of actions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like building with Legos. You can create complex structures
Right.
by combining simpler pieces.
I'm getting a sense of how powerful this modularity can be.
Yeah.
You can break down complex tasks into these smaller, reusable parts.
Exactly.
Pretty clever. But so far, we've mostly talked about how organized
Right.
these pipelines are.
Right.
What makes them truly dynamic?
That's where parameters come in.
Okay.
They are the secret sauce of dynamic pipelines,
Gotcha.
allowing you to customize their behavior as needed.
Okay.
Think of it like adjusting a recipe based on how many people you're serving
Mm-hmm.
or dietary restrictions.
Right.
The pipeline adapts to different situations in the same way.
So instead of having fixed values in the pipeline's code,
Yeah,
you can use parameters to make it more adaptable.
exactly.
Like where this is going.
So say you have a pipeline designed to copy data from one database to another.
Okay.
Instead of hard-coding the table names, you can use a parameter for that.
Right.
This allows you to reuse the same pipeline to copy data from different tables
Okay.
by simply changing the parameter value.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft Fabric even has this add dynamic content feature
Right.
that makes setting up these parameters a breeze.
So the pipeline becomes more like a program
Yeah.
that can make decisions based on the specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how that would be a game changer for businesses, especially when it comes to
Yeah.
speed and flexibility.
Yeah.
But what about when things go wrong?
Right.
How do dynamic pipelines handle unexpected problems?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
just like a pilot having backup plans for emergencies. Dynamic pipelines have built-in error handling.
Okay.
This ensures that the pipeline doesn't completely crash
Right.
if something unexpected happens.
So it's not just speed and flexibility, but also reliability that
Yeah.
we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense, especially when we're dealing with
Right.
business-critical data.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we also have to consider performance optimization,
Okay.
making sure these pipelines run as smoothly and efficiently as possible.
Right.
Think of it like fine-tuning a race car
Okay.
to squeeze out every bit of performance.
And of course, we can't talk about data without mentioning security.
Right.
Where do dynamic pipelines fit into that? I'm guessing they have to be
Yeah.
pretty secure. Right.
You're right. Dynamic pipelines integrate with tools like Azure Key Vault,
Okay.
which acts like a high-security safe
Mm-hmm.
for your sensitive information.
Right.
This includes things like connection strings and API keys.
Okay, so we've got error handling, performance optimization, and top-notch security. These dynamic pipelines sound like the ultimate data management tool,
They're pretty powerful.
but they're just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Microsoft Fabric has all these other powerful tools like
Oh.
Power BI and Synapse Analytics.
Yeah.
How do those fit into this picture?
You're getting ahead of me, but you're right.
Yeah.
Dynamic pipelines aren't just about moving data around.
Oh,
They're about turning that data into valuable insights.
right.
Think of Power BI as the storyteller of your data.
Okay.
It helps create dynamic dashboards that update in real time.
Oh, wow.
It's like having a live feed of your business performance.
That sounds incredible. And where does Synapse Analytics fit in?
Synapse Analytics is the big data powerhouse.
Okay.
It can analyze massive data sets to uncover hidden trends and make predictions.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a team of data scientists working around the clock
Wow.
to find meaning in your data.
So we've got dynamic pipelines efficiently moving the data,
Yeah.
Power BI transforming that data into insightful visuals.
Right. Synapse Analytics unearthing hidden patterns and trends.
Exactly.
It sounds like a pretty unstoppable data tree.
a powerful combination.
But with all this talk about dynamic pipelines,
Yeah.
are there other approaches out there that offer
Mhm.
similar flexibility?
That's a great question.
Are there other options businesses should be aware of?
And the answer is yes.
Okay.
Microsoft Fabric actually offers several ways to achieve flexibility in your data workflows.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there are control tables,
Okay.
which act as a central hub
Right.
for all your pipeline configurations.
So instead of having those configurations within the pipeline itself,
Yeah,
you have the separate control table that you can manage.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like having a master spreadsheet
Right.
that dictates how your pipelines behave.
Gotcha.
This can really simplify management, especially when dealing with very complex workflows.
That makes sense.
Wow.
What other approaches are out there?
There are also metadata-driven pipelines.
These are designed to be even more adaptable,
Okay.
responding to changes in the data itself.
Interesting.
Think of it like the structure of data can change over time, just like how a city evolves.
Okay.
Metadata-driven pipelines can automatically adapt to those changes, making them very robust.
So it's like they can learn and evolve
Yeah.
along with the data itself.
In a way, yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Right.
But with all these different approaches,
Right.
how do you know which one is right for a
Huh.
specific situation?
That's where understanding the nuances of each approach becomes crucial.
Okay.
Dynamic pipelines are great for handling a wide variety of scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Control tables offer a centralized way to manage complex configurations.
Right.
And metadata-driven pipelines are perfect for when your data is constantly changing.
Okay.
It really depends on the specific data challenges you're facing
Right.
and the level of flexibility you need.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly.
You need to find the right tool for the job.
Exactly. And Microsoft Fabric gives you the flexibility
Okay.
to choose the approach that best suits your needs.
This is all very impressive,
Yeah.
but I'm curious to see how these dynamic pipelines are actually being used in the real world.
Sure.
The research mentions some pretty compelling case studies.
Yeah.
Can we dive into those?
Absolutely. One that stands out is this retail giant that was struggling to integrate data from all its different branches.
Oh, wow.
They had this constant influx of information from various sources,
Mhm.
and their old processes were just too slow and inefficient.
I can imagine that being a common problem for large retailers,
Oh, yeah.
especially in today's world where data is coming from everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
They needed a solution that could handle the sheer volume and complexity of their data,
right.
and that's where dynamic pipelines came in.
Okay.
By implementing them, they were able to automate much of their data processing,
Mm-hmm.
reduce errors, and ultimately achieve a 75% faster turnaround time for getting insights from their data.
That's a huge improvement. But what does that actually mean for the business? How does a faster turnaround translate into real-world benefits?
It means they can react to changes in the market much quicker.
Okay.
Imagine being able to adjust your inventory based on real-time sales data.
Right.
Or personalized promotions based on customer behavior.
Wow.
That kind of agility gives them a serious edge over their competitors.
It's a great example of how a seemingly technical improvement can have a ripple effect throughout the entire business.
Yeah.
What other success stories stood out to you?
Another one that caught my eye was a financial services firm that was using dynamic pipelines to ensure they were compliant with all the regulations in their industry.
Right.
Data accuracy and security are paramount in finance, and any mistakes could lead to big fines or damage their reputation.
So the stakes are pretty high in that world?
Very high.
How did dynamic pipelines help them mitigate those risks?
They used them to create an automated validation process.
Okay.
This ensured that all their data met the necessary requirements before it was used for anything important.
Right.
Things like data format, completeness, consistency.
Oh.
It was all checked automatically.
Well, it's like having a built-in quality control system
Yeah.
that's constantly checking the data for any red flags.
Precisely.
Oh.
And the results were impressive.
Okay.
They achieved a 99.9% accuracy rate for their data.
Wow.
Which exceeded the regulatory standards
Right.
and built a lot of trust with both regulators and clients.
It sounds like they're not just working faster, but smarter and more securely.
Exactly. And here's another example that I thought was fascinating.
Okay.
A manufacturing company using dynamic pipelines to predict when their machines were going to break down.
Now that you mention it, the research did touch upon the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
So they were using data from sensors to make these predictions.
Exactly. They had sensors on all their machines, collecting data on things like temperature, pressure, vibration.
Right.
Anything that could indicate a potential problem.
Yeah.
This data was then fed into dynamic pipelines that could analyze it in real time.
So it's not just about collecting data.
Right.
It's about using it to make proactive decisions.
Absolutely. By analyzing the sensor data, they were able to identify patterns that indicated when a machine was likely to fail. This allowed them to schedule preventative maintenance before anything major happened, which reduced their downtime by an impressive 40%.
Wow, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Not only are they saving money on repairs, but they're avoiding costly interruptions to their production.
Precisely. And this highlights another key benefit of dynamic pipelines. The ability to handle streaming data in real time. It opens up all sorts of possibilities for businesses, particularly those looking to leverage the power of the Internet of Things.
It seems like these pipelines are a pretty versatile tool.
With applications across a wide range of industries. They're not just for tech companies. They have the potential to benefit any business that relies on data.
I agree. And the key takeaway here is that these examples demonstrate how dynamic pipelines are solving real-world problems and adding tangible business value.
They're not just a cool technical concept. They're making businesses more efficient, more agile, and ultimately more successful.
Exactly. And the best part is that this technology is becoming increasingly accessible. Thanks to platforms like Microsoft Fabric, which provide user-friendly interfaces and a wealth of resources to help businesses get started.
That's great news for businesses that might have been hesitant to dive into data engineering in the past. It sounds like they don't need a huge team of developers to start harnessing these capabilities.
Exactly. It's all about empowering businesses to make data-driven decisions.
And unlock their full potential, regardless of their technical expertise.
This has been an incredible deep dive so far.
It has been.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details of dynamic pipelines to their real-world applications and the different approaches available.
Absolutely.
But I have a feeling there's still more to explore.
You're absolutely right. There's always more to learn when it comes to data. And while we've been singing the praises of dynamic pipelines, I think it's important to acknowledge that they aren't a magic bullet.
You mean there are potential downsides or challenges that businesses should be aware of?
Exactly.
I was wondering when we get to that.
It's important to approach any new technology with a balanced perspective. While dynamic pipelines offer tremendous advantages, there are a few things to keep in mind.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of the potential pitfalls
Sure.
or challenges businesses might encounter when implementing these pipelines?
One thing to consider is the initial learning curve.
Right.
Even though platforms like Microsoft Fabric have made it easier than ever
Right.
to build these pipelines,
Mm-hmm.
there's still a certain level of technical knowledge required
Yeah.
to truly understand how they work
Okay.
and how to design them effectively.
So it's not quite as simple as clicking a button and having all your data problems magically disappear.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
You still need to have a basic grasp of data integration concepts,
Right.
pipeline design, and things like parameterization.
Okay.
But the good news is there are tons of resources available to help you learn.
Right.
Microsoft offers extensive documentation tutorials,
Mm-hmm.
and there are even online communities where you can connect with other users and get help.
So it's more about having a willingness to learn and adapt
Yeah,
than being a coding wizard.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get past that initial learning curve,
Okay.
the benefits far outweigh the effort.
That makes sense. What other challenges should businesses be aware of?
Another thing to consider is data quality.
Okay.
With dynamic pipelines, you're essentially automating a lot of your data processes.
Mm-hmm.
This means you need to be extra careful
Right.
about ensuring the data going into those pipelines is accurate and clean.
So it's not enough to just set up the pipeline and let it run wild.
Exactly.
You need to make sure the data itself is reliable.
You need to have robust data validation and error handling mechanisms in place
Right.
to catch any problems before they snowball into bigger issues down the line.
It's about finding that balance
Yeah.
between automation and control.
Mhm.
You want to leverage the power of the technology without sacrificing data integrity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What else should businesses keep in mind?
Okay.
Finally, it's important to consider the cost.
Okay.
Implementing dynamic pipelines might require an upfront investment in terms of software licenses, training, and potentially consulting services.
So it's not exactly a free lunch.
No, but it's crucial to weigh those costs against the potential benefits.
Right.
In many cases, the efficiency gains, reduced errors,
Mm-hmm.
and improved decision-making can more than justify the initial investment.
It all comes down to doing a proper cost-benefit analysis and deciding if it's the right fit for your specific business needs and budget.
Precisely.
Yeah.
As with any technology implementation,
Right.
it's essential to have a clear strategy, define your objectives, and partner with the right people to guide you along the way.
It's not just about jumping on the bandwagon because it's the latest trend.
Right.
It's about making informed decisions that
Yeah.
align with your business goals.
Absolutely. With the right approach,
Okay.
dynamic pipelines can be a powerful catalyst for growth, innovation, and success.
Well said. This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
It really has.
We've covered so much ground, but I still have a few
Like so.
lingering questions.
Sure.
For instance, we've talked about how dynamic pipelines can handle real-time data.
From things like IoT sensors.
Yeah.
But what about data that's not coming in real time?
Right.
Can dynamic pipelines handle batch processing as well?
Absolutely. Dynamic pipelines are equally adept at handling batch data.
Yeah.
In fact, batch processing is one of their core strengths.
Okay.
Let's say you have a large amount of historical data that needs to be processed and analyzed.
Right.
You can easily set up a dynamic pipeline to do that.
Okay.
You can schedule it to run at specific intervals
Right.
or trigger it manually whenever you need to process a new batch of data.
So it's not limited to just handling the constant stream of data
Right.
from sensors and other real-time sources.
Right.
It can also handle those large, one-time
Yeah.
data processing jobs that many businesses have to deal with.
Exactly. Think of it like this.
Okay.
Dynamic pipelines can handle both the steady flow of a river and the occasional tidal wave of data.
Right.
They're built to be flexible and adaptable to a wide range of scenarios. That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
I'm starting to see just how versatile these pipelines really are.
Yeah, they're very versatile.
But with all this talk about data processing and automation,
Right.
I can't help but wonder about the human element.
Mm-hmm.
Are we at risk of becoming too reliant on these automated systems?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
As with any technology that promises to automate tasks
Right.
and make things more efficient,
Yeah.
there's always a risk
Mm-hmm.
of becoming overly reliant on it.
Right.
But I believe the key lies in finding the right balance.
Okay.
Dynamic pipelines can handle a lot of the heavy lifting,
Mm-hmm.
but they shouldn't replace human expertise and oversight entirely.
So it's not about letting the machines take over.
Right.
It's about using them to augment our capabilities and free up human resources for more strategic tasks.
Think of it as a partnership
Okay.
between human intelligence and artificial intelligence.
Right.
Dynamic pipelines can handle the repetitive rule-based tasks,
Mm-hmm.
while humans can focus on the things that require creativity,
Okay.
critical thinking, and nuanced decision-making.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's not about replacing humans.
Right.
It's about empowering them to do more,
Exactly.
to be more efficient, and to focus on the things
Yeah,
that truly add value to the business.
precisely. And as these technologies continue to evolve,
Right.
we'll likely see this partnership between humans and machines become even more
Mm-hmm.
symbiotic and productive.
It's an exciting time to be working with data.
It is.
We're seeing a convergence of powerful technologies and human ingenuity
Right,
that's
yeah.
opening up all sorts of possibilities.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with the future, let's
Yeah.
bring it back to the present.
Okay.
I know our listeners are eager to learn how they can actually start using these dynamic pipelines.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them? Where should they begin?
The first step is to really understand your own data challenges and objectives. What are you trying to achieve with your data?
Right.
What are the pain points you're experiencing?
Mm-hmm.
Once you have a clear understanding of your needs,
Okay.
you can start exploring the different tools and approaches available in Microsoft Fabric.
So it's not about jumping straight into the technology. It's
Right.
about taking a step back and figuring out
Yeah.
what you're actually trying to accomplish.
Exactly. And Microsoft offers a wealth of resources to help you along the way.
Okay.
Their documentation is excellent. They have tutorials and sample pipelines to get you started.
Right.
And there's a vibrant online community where you can connect with other users
Okay.
and learn from their experiences.
It sounds like they're really trying to make this technology accessible to everyone,
Yeah,
not just the data scientists and developers of the world.
that's right. They're trying to democratize data
Right.
and empower businesses of all sizes to leverage its power.
That's a very empowering message.
It is.
So to recap, if you're intrigued by the potential of dynamic pipelines, start by identifying your data challenges,
Yeah,
exploring the resources available in Microsoft Fabric,
right.
and don't be afraid to experiment and learn as you go.
Exactly. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
The best approach will depend on your specific needs and goals.
This has been an incredibly informative deep dive.
It has.
We've covered so much ground, but I still have a few lingering questions.
Sure.
Yeah, it really has been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
And you've given our listeners a lot to think about.
Mm.
But before we let them go,
Right?
I think it would be helpful to just summarize some of the key takeaways from our deep dive into dynamic pipelines.
Okay.
What are your top takeaways?
Well, for me, the first one is that dynamic pipelines are a game changer.
Yeah.
For anyone working with data.
Mm-hmm.
They offer a level of efficiency and flexibility that simply wasn't possible before.
I think that's spot on. They're revolutionizing the way we handle data,
Absolutely.
making it faster, easier, and more insightful.
Mm-hmm.
The second takeaway is that dynamic pipelines are not just for
Right.
tech giants or data scientists.
Yeah.
Businesses of all sizes and across industries are using them to solve real-world problems and gain a competitive edge.
Absolutely. We saw that in the case studies we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
From retailers optimizing their inventory to manufacturers predicting machine failures, the applications are incredibly diverse.
And the third takeaway, which I think is particularly important for our listeners, is that Microsoft Fabric is making this power accessible to everyone.
That's a crucial point.
You don't need to be a coding expert
Right.
to start building and using dynamic pipelines.
Microsoft has done a great job of democratizing access to these tools,
Yeah.
making it easier than ever for businesses to leverage the power of data.
So if you're listening to this and you're intrigued by the possibilities of dynamic pipelines, I encourage you to take that first step.
Absolutely.
Explore the resources available in Microsoft Fabric, experiment with the tools,
Right.
and see how they can help you solve your own data challenges.
And remember, it's a journey, not a race.
Yeah.
Start with small steps, learn as you go,
Right.
and don't be afraid to ask for help. There's a supportive community out there that's eager to share knowledge and experiences.
Well said. This has been a truly insightful exploration of dynamic pipelines.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details to the real-world applications and even the potential challenges.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've equipped our listeners with a solid understanding of this game-changing technology.
I agree, and I hope they're as excited about the future of data as we are.
Absolutely. It's an incredibly dynamic and rapidly evolving field. I can't wait to see what innovations emerge in the years to come.
Me too.
But for now, we'll leave our listeners with this final thought.
Okay.
The power of data is within reach.
It is.
Don't be afraid to harness it, to experiment, and to see what amazing things you can create.
That's a perfect note to end on.
To all our listeners, keep exploring, keep learning,
Yeah.
and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible with data.
Absolutely.
Until next time, happy data wrangling.
Happy data wrangling.